Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Fred Meyer. I'm giving another talk on Buddhist enlightenment. The topic today that I am going to discuss is the first principle of enlightenment. Now, we could probably come up with a number of things that we think are the first principles of attaining enlightenment. For example, in the last talk I talked about the importance of being completely dedicated to helping others as the reason to do whatever we do on the Buddhist path. For a Vajrayanist, you might say that the first principle is to have complete devotion to your teacher. So this is the principle I'm going to bring up is going to be another first principle. and this first principle is never give up. Never give up. In other words, never give up on the path. Continue to travel on the path. And that's not always easy, I might add that. There can be long periods where nothing happens, and then all of a sudden things start to happen, insights start to happen. But there are very long periods where we can get discouraged and want to give up. In my time in the Dharma, I have always, without exception, been surprised by the insights that occur. They always come unexpectedly and completely off the wall. I could never predict when one of these things would happen. I could never predict that would happen. And the point I'm making is that this isn't anything that we plan as we progress on the path. We just put ourselves in a situation by day in, day out, practicing, maintaining devotion to our teacher, studying the Dharma, just day in and day out, just being there, and things start happening. It's just the way it is. One of the great spiritual teachers, Woody Allen, once said that 80% of success is just showing up. And that's true. And it's true in the Dharma. And I think we have all seen this in our life in general. We've all done different disciplines and all that. Maybe we weren't particularly a whiz when we started out. We weren't a natural, but we just showed up every day and we did our work and things turned out fine. We became very, very good at what we did, very successful. It's like that. That's the way it is in the Dharma. We just show up every day. We never give up. We show up every day. This reminds me of a little story. Boy, this has been a while ago. I can't even remember when. But you may be aware of a really big-time New York artist. His name was Julian Schnabel. I think he's still around. I haven't heard anything happen to him, but he was, really big time. He probably still is. Made a movie, and he may have made more than one movie. But anyhow, I was in Houston, and he gave a talk at the museum in Houston, Texas, and I went to the talk because I had known of him. And after the talk, I don't know, you could probably say I was stupid enough to go up and say something to Julian Schnabel because, he was lethal. He was a classic of just absolutely destroying art critics or reporters who would talk to him. But I don't know, I was really interested in him, and the art that he showed was fantastic. He had a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and he was going through his slides. So after it was over, I noticed that the slides, it's like his art it just exploded. Like, I think it was like around the mid-'80s. And I thought I'd just ask him, what happened? Did you find out that your mother really loved you? Or, I was looking for some kind of psychological insight. So I went up to him, I said, what happened in the mid-'80s? And he looked at me and he said, I just kept doing it. End of the conversation. But it was perfect. It was right on. It's like, that's it. You just keep doing it. And things happen. I just kept doing it. Wow. So, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. And it seems like I'm thinking about experiences that I had, uh, little vignettes. Another one has to do with my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. Um, I gave anything to be around my teacher. Um, I mean, he was like, I can't begin to describe it. I mean, he was enlightenment in the flesh. There's a saying in the Dharma, a beautiful chant actually, that's a meal chant about the qualities of a Buddha, and one of the aspects is one never has enough of seeing him, and that's the way it was for me with my teacher. I never had enough of seeing him. I couldn't take my eyes off him. He was so interesting. So I used to find little ways to try to be around him. I by no means was in the inner circle. I mean, I was a gopher. Uh, People were a lot more interested in my car than me, and they needed something, and I'd be off and getting it and or whatever. So it was sort of discouraging. I wanted to see him, and I really didn't get much of a chance. But every once in a while, one time serving him breakfast. I mean, he came down to breakfast, and 2 or 3 of us served him breakfast, and he said a few things, and just just ravished my mind with his presence. Just blew me away with insight, just the way his mind was, his presence, the blessings, the power of what he was. I mean, it just unbelievable. So it was worth it. Taking out the garbage, doing the dishes, you know, being the gopher. Eventually, it worked because I never gave up. I never gave up. It's like that. Just keep going. If we just keep going, things happen. Some people just give up on the Dharma for one reason or another. They just drop out. And but there are people who drop out in lesser ways as well. And one of the major ones that I have seen in many years on the path is they may quit meditating. And this is really something that we actually should never ever do, is stop meditating, because meditation is what puts us in contact with the nature of mind. And when you see the nature of mind, that is enlightenment. That's how you become enlightened. You see the nature of mind. You're never going to see it if you don't spend time with it. And meditation gives you that time to be with mind. So, we can give up in big ways, or we can give up in small ways. Okay, so we should be careful about that in terms of giving up at all. So, finally, it's a strange thing for someone to be talking about never giving up in the Dharma, because the fact is, when we really start to get insight, it comes from giving up in a really fundamental way. We don't gain anything by the insights that we have. We just give up things that are obscuring it and see what's underlying. So giving up is really important. So it's sort of silly, you might think, to say, well, never give up. But what I really want to say is, don't give up until you do. So, thank you so much for listening to this. And I hope these comments have been of help.